by Mr. Lance Thompson, and our Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Norfleet Jones.
Okay, let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for all the many rich blessings you bestowed upon us. Please forgive us for our sins. We know there are many. Guide us and protect us and help us make good decisions for the citizens of Horry County. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please stand and face the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Come to the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor of the agenda as it is?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we move the executive session up to right behind public input.
It's been moved and second that we move the executive session up behind public input. Is there a second to that motion?
I say.
All those in favor make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Okay. Approval of minutes from our March 25th meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second that the minutes from the March 25th meeting be accepted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes? April 8th budget workshop minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second that we accept the minutes from our April 8th budget workshop. We've seen no requests for public input. As of 5 p.m. today, is there any request for public input? Chair recognizes none, so we'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Moved and second that we go into executive session for the purpose of,
Considering a proposed contractual matter.
all those in favor make it known by saying aye.
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 Opposes? Executive session. The purpose of the executive session was to discuss a contractual matter. No votes or motions were made during the executive session, so we'll continue with the agenda as outlined with departmental reports and updates. Ms. Murphy.
Good evening.
Hello.
My report begins on page 17. We're going to start with a brief update on the CRA, Carolina Recycling Association Conference that Mr. Besson and myself attended the last week, first week in April. Very good conference. I had the opportunity to participate in a roundtable discussion about plastics in the Carolinas. Well-attended conference. So we got to do, one of my biggest benefits there is just to touch base with various vendors, especially vendors that might be interested in our material at the MRF. So we made several new contacts in that area also. In addition to the conference, we also submitted nominations for the Carolina Recycling Association Awards program, and that's one that they have every year. And it recognizes various areas in the recycling and solid waste field. We're pleased to announce that one of the submittals was chosen, and that was Daisy Elementary, chosen as the outstanding school program for the year, and that was for North Carolina and South Carolina. There is a press release that in your packet that basically details some of the pluses in their program. In that the award happened the first week in April. By the time we got back and got in contact with some people, it was time for spring break, so we weren't able to award their or take them their award until actually this morning. So we were there this morning. And if you look on the screen, that's Miss Kendra Hooks with one of the fourth grade teachers from Daisy Elementary, Miss Jenny Huber. And we were there with the fourth grade classes from Daisy because they are a strong school with regard to recycling programs. And they are one of our grand prize winners for this year's Talking Trash campaign. So they were excited, and we were excited for them. The next update I want to give you is on the South Carolina DHEC grant cycle. It began with the submittal of applications last week. We did submit applications for the waste tire grant, used oil grant, and the solid waste grant. With regard to the solid waste grant, DHEC usually gives us an area to focus in on. This year's area that they were kind of point you towards was the electronic waste recycling and covering contractor costs. There was one, for me, it was a little disappointing that this year they actually limited how much funding you could request. Whereas last year I can request a certain number per capita based on population. That was not available this year, but we asked for all we could. And we'll know in about the June, July timeframe what grants we may have received. So we'll keep you informed on that. Do want to update you. We did hold a quarterly meetings this past month with the recycling centers and did name the recycling center of the quarter for the quarter ending March 31st, and that was Dorman's Crossroads out in the Adrian community. In your board packet, we had a picture of Mr. Ken Boyd, who is our full-time site attendant there. And just as a matter of reference, Dorman's has been open since August of 1997. So it's a good site doing good work. It is the time of year when we have students graduating from high school, so that means it's the time of year for our scholarship program to occur. We offer the scholarship to each of the 13 high schools in Horry County, and I believe this is the first year that we actually awarded a scholarship to each of the high schools. So that was a first for us. All 13 schools had a recipient that was chosen. And just as a matter of reference, if you submit, that's half the battle. But the biggest part of the battle was getting through our team of judges. They have criteria that they judge by, and you have to make a minimum score in order to be considered for the scholarship. So if you have more than one student at a school, whoever scores the highest in their essay portion of the scholarship is the chosen recipient. And our judges blindly judge the scholarship application, so they have no idea what school it came from, what student it came from. And we purposely do that to give everybody a fair plate when it comes to their judging. Listed in your board packet and as well on the screen is the scholarship winners or recipients for this school year. We had several of them come out last week for a photo shoot so that we can send their information to the papers in a press release. And on the screen, on the top picture, one of the criteria they must do once selected, in order to receive your scholarship, you must complete what we call SWA community service. And that means you help us out at an event. So they're always great helpers. Lastly, I want to wish everyone a happy Earth Day. Today is April 22nd. It is Earth Day. And we also held our open house today. Very good turnout. We had approximately 29 people come to tour the landfill. Very energetic, fun group of people that came out today. On the screen is just a snapshot of some of those who were here that were willing to smile as they were leaving after having a nice hot dog lunch here with us. So that was very enjoyable. It's always good to take new people who've never seen a landfill out to our landfill because they always come back and say, It's not what I expected. I said, that hole is not back there. So that's my report. Any questions? Thank you.
Mr. Hilling?
Good evening. Go through some of our
Hello.
projects, monthly projects that we have out there. My report begins on page 31. First one is our driver of the month. For the month of March, we had Steve Harrington from the city of Conway. Steve's done a good job out here, very courtesy with our scale house attendants, works good with our operators and loaders out there. So he was a worthwhile applicant for the driver of the month. Next, household hazardous waste update. We had our second pickup in March, picked up 28,791 pounds. Again, this was our second one for the year. You can see where we've had 113,016 pounds, and we've still got another one that we're going to have scheduled before the physical year ends. So we'll probably be hitting somewhere, I'd say, 130,000 pounds for the year. But program's going real good, and believe it or not, last Saturday, with the weather the way it was, we had 3 inches of rain out here, and the wind was blowing like crazy. They said it was extremely busy. People still bringing the stuff out here, so weather doesn't really matter. Update on our East Hill closure project. Of course, everybody pretty much knew about our pre-bids that we had. We updated that during last month's bid. We did have our bids turned in on April 10th. We received 2 bids, one from King Construction Services and one from Thale Construction Services. We're going to get into more of that when we get into new business. That's a little bit further in the board meeting tonight. But just to let you know, we did have 2 bids turned in. Vance Moore from Garrett and Moore will be going through and kind of go through the process to make sure all board members are up to date on how the process from beginning to end. So Vance will be up here in just a little bit and bring everybody up to date on that. The last thing is our carpet and padding update. We're real excited about how we've been doing this year. Of course, last 2 years, we set a goal for 1 million pounds of carpet and padding that we wanted to recycle and keep out of the landfill. And you can see in your board report so far for the first 9 months, we've done 786,780 pounds, which is about 104%. If we were on target, it'd have been 750,000. So we're ahead. We feel like if we can push out 6 more loads between April, and we've already had one, April, May, and June, and with what padding goes out of here, we're going to reach our goal this year of 1 million pounds. But if you look from when the program started, looking at the padding and the carpet, we started in May of 2012. We've done over 1.5 million pounds of carpet that have gone out of here that have been recycled. We've worked with Wellman and Southeastern Plastics. So been asked to, at the SWA meeting in a couple, 3 weeks, do a presentation on carpet recycling. So if any board members will go there, I'll be giving a little PowerPoint on that and kind of give you a brief overview of our program and some numbers there. But staff's been real excited, been working real hard, determined to reach that goal this year of 1 million pounds. So, any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank
Ms. Fitting?
Good evening. The financial reports begin on page 39. That page is the summary of all the different financial aspects of the reports. What I'd like to point out to you is, of course, we're 9 months into the year, and so we should be at about 75% of budget. If you look in the middle of that sheet, you can see that solid waste is at 75% of budget. Our mixed construction is only at 70% of budget, and of course, our yard waste is way above because of the storm debris we received during the month of February. So it is at 89% of budget. The recyclable sales, as you see, are at 68% of budget, so they are still running a little bit below. And our landfill gas is at 76% of budget, so it's kind of right on target. Page 41, which is our income statement. As you see for the year, for the month, we're at 185,000 over, revenues over expenses, which is good. Like I said, we had a good month. Primarily, we had a really good month in our recyclable sales this month. We did over $260,000 in recyclable sales, so that was good for this month, because normally it's around $130,000 to $150,000, so there was an increase there.
What was the increase based on, do you know?
On the recyclable
Particular-
sales, we had a transition last month with management and stuff, so that we had a larger volume go out this month in our sales. Last month, I think I pointed out to you that it was down quite a bit last month, and I knew we would have a lot going out this month. The prices are about the same. They are maintaining. We haven't seen a significant change in the prices, thank goodness. So that's like I said, it's been more the volume going out.
Are you saying that the management change is the primary cause?
Well, we had a transition, over there at that facility, and so that, with getting the sales going out, we have to they have to let us know when they've got product available, and like I said, with that going on last month, there was a lot of miscommunication back and forth on when product was available for sale, so we had a lot more go out this month.
On paper, our paperwork just got caught up.
Exactly, yes, sir.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
like I said, they've been working hard over there to get all that product out, so. And for the year-to-date, as you see, we're at $714,980. Like I said, I mentioned to staff this morning, we're entering into the last quarter of the year. I'm hoping they can continue to work hard to maintain their expenses, because as you see, our revenue is only at 68 or almost 69% of budget, and our expenses are at 65% of budget, so they're maintaining their expenses. And so I want them to continue to work hard, to continue that through the rest of the quarter, because this last quarter I know can be kind of a tight one as we finish up the year. So one other thing I wanted to kind of take a look at was on page 45, which has all the different, it's a tonnage report on the different materials. And, I always compare last year to this year. As you can see, solid waste is only at a 3% increase over last year, and so is mixed construction. However, last month, when I showed you, just to show you the decrease in the mixed construction, last month we were at 7% over the previous year. Here we are in the next month in March, and we're only at 3%. So you can see we are seeing a significant decrease in our mixed construction tonnage. Like I said, I think by the end of the year, of course, we're going to see a decrease, of course. And just on that note, I do have an update kind of for you where we are on our mixed construction. I think I reported to you at our budget workshop, I think through the first week in April, where we were. Now we've got 3 weeks in, and currently, for the month of April alone, we've lost about $32,000 in revenue. I kind of totaled it up because I've been tracking it for February, March, and April. We're currently at about $104,000 loss in revenue due to the loss of C&D material. I'm estimating by finishing out this year, we're going to probably estimate a loss of about $220,000 in revenue. We're averaging around $12,500 a week loss in revenue due to the loss of C&D material. So,
Is that the one where we budgeted for the possibility of a $400,000 decrease in revenue?
yes, sir, we did for this year. We had taken a look at by holding those positions open and stuff. There's some of the things we've taken into consideration for that loss. Yes, sir.
So right now, you're projecting we'll come in at a little over half of that.
That's what
loss.
that's what I'm anticipating right now. Yes, sir, about $220,000. Are there any other questions?
And the 400,000 was for a full year.
It was for the half of FY14. We're anticipating $650,000 loss for FY15. All right, thank you.
Mr. Besant?
Trying to get used to this iPad. I know y'all not having this problem. Lee Disposal, which is our C&D recycling facility, his recycling rate's down to about 65% this month.
What page are you on?
On page 55. Hold on. Thank you. Well, he brought about 688 tons into his facility last month, with 448 of that being recycled. About 230 tons of that was just concrete alone. The incentive tons, he received 460 and received a little over $2,300 in reduction in tipping fees as it relates to that program. Year-to-date numbers, FY14, he's brought in a little over 6,000 tons into the facility. Concrete, about 2,300 tons of that. He's recycled at 70.82% year-to-date, with a little over 4,200 tons being recycled. 1,966 tons of that was concrete, and he's received a little over $10,000 for the recycling incentive program that he had, that we give him in credits. Any questions on that?
And this program's going to go away after this fiscal year.
If y'all pass the budget as planned, this program will go away.
And has he been talked to about this? Has it been discussed at all, the possibility of that, or we're waiting until?
No, I have had a conversation with him today to know that it's not a done deal, but it is being discussed by the board during the budget process.
What kind of feedback did you get?
Not a whole lot. I mean, it wasn't a lot either way. He just said, I appreciate you letting me know in advance.
I kind of expect he probably expected it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think it was, he did not act like it was a surprise to him. So. All of our recycling incentive programs, which is on page 57. MSW recycling incentive is about $170,000 we give out year-to-date. At the factory, for people that use the C&D recycling facility, we gave out about $47,000. Our C&D recycling incentive, which is $10,000, which is what Lee received, for a total of $228,000 that's went back to our customers in some type of incentives so far in this 9 months of this year, or year. Legislative update, any questions on that? Legislative update, there's not too much going on at the Capitol right now. It's pretty quiet. Well, the electronics bill did get done, and DHEC's trying to figure out how it's going to affect us and what miracles it's going to work. And they do have the plan to be done. All the manufacturers, TV manufacturers, must have a plan to them by September 30th. DHEC's got to do promulgate the regulations of the thing over the summer, hopefully. So, and then the plans have to be in place by January 1st of FY or year 2015, the first, and then after that, they will take an effect. And it's a wild gamut of stuff, and everybody's trying to figure it out right now and get a hold of arms around it. Don't know how much savings it's going to be, if any, at Horry County, but we're looking at it, trying to figure out the best way to get through it. It is the law now, so. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knight?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First point is the county budget retreat. We went up Friday 2 weeks ago and met with the council, Mr. Campbell, Ms. Creech, and Mr. Gray. I was in attendance. Basically, I advised the council that our budget was balanced. Everybody was somewhat happy. If they had any questions, we would answer them, and that took a bit of about 5 minutes. So we will start the process with them now. I guess we'll go to INR, present it there. Any questions, we will get it through our process. I told them y'all had looked at it and reviewed it and pretty much agreed to it up to that point. It could be very well be some changes up to the final reading. Any of the council that was there have any comments on the budget process? They were,
As a board, are we done? I mean, we've had 2 budget workshops. And,
it'll come back to the board for final approval. And anything can be changed to final approval. With the budget. The next point is the workshop minutes that were passed out and was highlighted. And all I can say is we all need to be very careful on the statements that we make. Sometimes statements that aren't factual, after a couple of repeats, they take on the shadow of being truthful, and sometimes these statements get to the council, and then we have to try to work them through it and show them exactly what was said. But you know, some of the statements that were in the minutes were, you know, the shortfall's going to be absorbed by growth. Well, that's not going to happen. Loss of C&D was based on 1 week, and we've been looking forward to the loss of C&D for a couple of years. There was a statement about significant increase in overtime. We've taken that into consideration in the budget, and we will be looking at maybe program somewhat like school teachers. If you got one out, you call one in, and they already approved, and we're looking at maybe doing that with some temporary services or list of employees, operators that can do the work. So we're very cognizant of the overtime, and we're looking at that pretty tough.
Was there any incorrect statements that I made? There's a couple of, I just want to make sure I didn't misstate, okay?
No, it's just-
I expressed concern about overtime, and I'm concerned about that, not only here, but,
And-
so I'm, okay,
And trust me, we're concerned.
sure.
also. We've cut it back significantly in the last couple of weeks, and appreciate staff working with
Good,
us
thank you.
on that. Statement that advertising exceeded the budget by $50,000. But sometimes these statements, I'd rather for you to ask questions instead of making a statement, and then we'll answer the questions. But please just be careful. That's all I have, Chairman.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Knight? Any unfinished business? The store, let's see, old business? No committee reports, am I correct? All right, then we look at the old business, the committee, the store analysis, recommendations from staff.
Jan's going to talk about this.
At the budget workshop, we talked about, possibly looking into some type of different agreement with the Council on Aging. And so it was, the board had recommended that we put together a few options as it pertains to that. And so we did. We kind of came together as a staff and talked about it. We've got four options there for you. Option one being similar, somewhat similar to what they're currently doing, in that all of our expenses would be covered, Council on Aging's expenses would be covered, and any money that's left over, we would split evenly. If there was not any money left over, you know, we, like I said, you know, there would be, you know, a loss that we both would have to incur. Option two would be where our expenses would be covered, any remaining funds would go to the Council on Aging. We would not receive any type of profit, we would just cover our expenses. Option three was, Council on Aging leasing that building to us, or from us, at a set cost each year. And then option four is just to close the store. What I handed out to you, I know Reverend Coakley had asked for a breakdown of the expenses for FY 13 and 14. 13 is actual, 14 is estimated for the year. Council on Aging pays the salaries, so that's, like I said, that is what they're incurring, and then the rest is our expenses, with the understanding that no matter what option we go with, those expenses that we are incurring, we are going to continue to incur. The only thing that, out of this list, that we could possibly do without would be the water and telephone. You have to maintain electricity to have insurance, and we have to maintain insurance on that property. So no matter which option we go with, we're still going to be incurring those expenses.
What is facility M&R?
I'm sorry?
Facility M&R.
Maintenance and repairs.
Okay.
You know, they had done a few repairs over there. That, to my knowledge, I don't think they're doing much over there as far as maintenance currently. I haven't heard them say, you know, like I said before, I think they had a few little issues they had taken care of, but that was it.
You remember right offhand what the revenue over there was this past year? Or
Last year, the revenue was, I want to say, it was, like I said, there was a profit of $10,000. I'm going to guess, I think it was like 73,000 maybe. And they're, like I said, they're anticipating being right on track for this year to have about the same, maybe about a $20,000 profit this year. And I just need direction from the board to, you know, like I said, our recommendation is for you to allow Danny to enter into an agreement, a new agreement with the Council on Aging. Since this does affect our budget, because I currently have, of course, expenses and revenue budgeted in our budget, so if we are making a change, as far as a change which would be option 3 or option 4, where they would handle, they would just lease it from us or we close the store, that would make a change to our budget. And like I said, option 1 and 2 would still have us receiving the money and booking the expenses like we're currently doing, handling all of the accounting part of it. So that, therefore, that wouldn't make a change to our budget, but options 3 and 4 would. And so I need to, you know, we need to kind of make that decision so that we can adjust our budget if need be.
I move we adopt Ms. Creech's recommendation.
Ms. Creech's recommendation is not on the board. It's not here unless it's one of these options. What option is it?
Well, there were several that we discussed, or that I discussed. I guess maybe the number 2 is closest. I did suggest we could actually lease them the property, which would be 3. The second one was that our expenses be covered and the remaining fund goes to them, I believe, after we got the $5,000 per year. So I guess I said a little bit on 2 and 3 would be on there. And the reason, as I looked at it, and the salaries are something that is being paid that really is not an expense, in my opinion, we should incur with that. So also I wanted to know if the county, if Steve Gosnell had been consulted, because he's the one that handles the hauling that to them, and I had talked with Steve here at the meeting about that, and he said he would think about it. So I guess I'd like to know if the administration has talked with Steve at all about his recommendation.
No. We haven't talked to Steve about the hauling part. All it does is save Steve's hauling costs.
Right.
Because we actually, sometimes with their employees, sometimes with ours, we go and get the material in a truck and trailer
that we bought the trailer the first year out of the income.
Okay.
So the only thing it's gonna do is help Steve in hauling. It's gonna help us in somewhat, and the tipping fees, because it comes straight there, doesn't go through the scales. And it helps us somewhat with some landfill space on the bigger items.
Okay. I guess I'd like to say I'd like to talk with him. He and I talked about several things, and one of them was bringing it here and auctioning it off and doing it in a different way. So, everything that's on here is a part of something we've discussed. There isn't really one option that's on here that I see. I realize that we're gonna have to pay expenses unless you absolutely tore the property down, that we would have. I like the fact that we're saving Steve the money, that we're saving this from going into the landfill, and that, Council on Aging is getting money. I just think that it should be done, originally, when I was told it was, we were splitting the money. When we're paying their salaries, isn't what that means to me, that we're splitting the money. And then they do what they want with theirs, and we do what we want with this. So those are several of the things that bother me. And I would like to, of course, if we leased it to them for an amount of money, they would, in my opinion, be responsible for the property insurance, the electricity, water, telephone, and their own salaries, just like any other business. So I think that was what Mr. Gray was looking at that I had said first there. And that appeals to me.
One of my memory of the motion was that the staff would bring back, per Mr. Jones's request, the staff would bring back 3 recommendations, and that one of them would be yours, and the other
Right.
2 would be new.
That was not the motion. I did not carry it that way.
Okay, I kind of
Vote
understood
made,
that too.
You may have voted.
No, that was not the motion. I know that because I didn't carry it that way. That was not the motion on the floor.
Certainly not in the minutes. It's the motion that I made. If you deny the motion, then I've got no business speaking. You're the mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, how about Ms. Creek's option number 1 then?
That messed up, so let me look at that
There
and
you go.
see.
Solid waste expense covered with, Council on Aging expenses covered and split the profit.
Well, that's kind of what we're doing now. The Council on Age's expenses being $40-some thousand in salaries is not really splitting the money to me. So that, us paying their salaries would not be something I would vote for, put it that way. If we want to do all of that and all of the, to me, the expenses of the property insurance, the electricity, the water, the telephone, the facility, we are already, Steve Gosnell's already paying to haul it, which is a salary or an expense. We're already losing rent. You could rent the building. So all of us are losing something there except the aging, because we're paying their salaries. And that is my problem with this.
I think the only way that you can get away from the thinking we're paying part of those salaries is number 2. We cover our expenses, and then whatever's left, they get it. It covers their expenses. It covers whatever they want to do with it. If they don't want to hire but one person over there, then they benefit more with the profit level. And that would be, I mean, we would just be losing, what, $5,000 or $6,000
That's right.
in that process?
Right.
What percentage is the $5,000 now of the $73,000?
What percentage is it?
Is $5,000 of $73,000?
You're asking off the top of my head.
It's not much.
And
No.
the reason I say that, the
Yeah.
option number 2 is fine with me,
Yeah,
except I would like to have a percentage of the money basically to pay us back for some of the stuff we've done and a type of lease, or either you could put expenses covered in $5,000 lease. But I would like the Solid Waste Authority not to lose at least the amount of money that we're getting today. I don't want the $5,000 to come out of our budget. I think we ought to have something to show for that.
Then that's option 2 coming off the table, right? Because option 2, we would lose that 5,000.
Yeah.
6,000, so that,
But this, Mr. Chair, we talking about going forward from here is what we're talking about, right?
Yes, right.
Right.
so are you talking like maybe our expenses plus an additional 5,000, is that what
Right,
you're saying?
plus additional
Like a-
percent.
Like a $5,000
At
lease
number-
or something?
Right, number 2 plus an additional 5% of the profit or 8% of the profit
Profit.
is fine with me. But I think we need something to pay back what expenses we've had and something to show for that so that it doesn't come out of our budget. So number 2, with that option of the percentage, that would be at least that, as it goes up, would be fine with me.
Okay.
I'm a little bit lost about the $5,000. Where are you coming up with 5,000?
Well, we're getting 5 now.
after everything's paid out.
After everything's paid out. We're getting 5 now. I don't think we should lose the amount of money, the percentage of money we get now, because we've had expenses up to this point that need to be paid back, and the 5,000 is in our budget.
What is our total investment in the property at this point in terms of financial actual funds?
I'd have to go back, look to give you an exact,
Just
our-
ballpark.
You're talking about our expenses. Last year we had 16,000. This year we anticipate 11,000. Prior year was around the 16,000. So I'm going to say, we've got, maybe 45,000.
The store's been in operation basically 3 years, and we've put 16,000 in it approximately each year for 48,000, and we've gotten approximately how much out of it each year?
First year was a loss, and then last year was the first year that we did see a profit, and we received $5,000 profit. Oh, right, plus our expenses, I'm sorry. Plus, it covered our expenses.
So we covered our expenses last year plus
Plus the
profit,
5,000.
so technically we've invested 2 years in it without any income back, in essence.
We lost $50,000 the first 8 months they were open. We've made a small amount every year since then, around $5,000 to $10,000 for 2 years, counting this year.
Our first year's loss was due to startup costs. We had to
Right.
purchase trailers and that type of thing, which is why why we incurred a loss that first year.
Do we pay stormwater on that property?
Yes,
That's not figured in your expenses?
I think I lumped it in with the insurance.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
So is there a recommendation from the board as to what we go with? Or do we accept the recommendation that staff is presenting?
I would like to make a motion that we take option 2 and add to that the percentage that 5,000 would be of the 73. So in other words, if they did 140,000, you would still get the same percentage.
Right.
That would be my motion.
Your motion is what now?
Option 2, plus we get the same percentage every year that $5,000 is of the 73,000 this year. If it's 3%, I think Jan's gonna figure it up.
Six 6.8. Thank you.
Okay, 6.8%. Number 2 would plus 6.8% of the profit.
That would be after their expenses are paid as well, that, not 6.8% of the revenue.
No, yes.
And how long would that agreement be? What would be the term?
Well, if it was 3 years before, would that be 3 years?
But let me see if I understand what we're saying. We're saying that we pay, our expenses are paid up front. Then the funds go to HCC, and then we get 6.8% of the profit.
Correct.
Is that not less than what we're doing now?
That's about the same. I mean, it's, like I said, you know, right now, what we're doing is we're splitting the expenses. We're splitting the revenue and splitting the profit. You know, trying an even split where we'd factor in their expenses when we make the split, where this, we wouldn't. We would take our expenses right off the top and then subtract their expenses. And then any profit, we would get 6.8% of. So it is a little bit different.
But the net result would be about the
About the
same,
same,
just
yes, sir.
structured differently.
Same, it's just
Exactly, yes,
structured
sir.
differently.
It is.
Okay. Is there a second? Can Mr. Gray, you second that motion?
Yes.
Okay, we're going with option 2, where SWA expenses are covered. Remaining funds go to HCC on aging, and then the profit is, we get 6.8% of the profit. All those in favor make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Ayes have it, so ordered.
Now, we're going to maintain all of the accounting in-house as we're currently doing. I want to make sure that's okay with, we'll record all the expenses, including the salary, because we are receiving all of the revenue, and then we'll do the breakdown at the end of the year like we normally do.
Okay.
That's-
That, I'm assuming you're also going to pay yourself out of that for the time you spend.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, next item, East Hill Field Closure Project.
Yeah, at this time, I'd like to ask Vance Moore from Garrett and Moore to come up, and he's going to go through the process of what we've done up to date. And if you have any questions, anything that he, you know, anything on your mind, please just ask him.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hello.
Well, I'm here to tell you about the process for the East Hill closure bid. And we've had 3 important dates in this. The first one is we had a mandatory pre-bid conference. And that's where when contractors are notified they can attend a conference and understand the purpose of the bid and have a chance to ask questions. We had 13 prime bidders attend this conference. 9 of them were active during the bidding process, actively asking questions. We had a bid opening on April the 10th. 2 bidders, as you were told early, submitted bids, and we interviewed both bidders on April the 17th. And my purpose here is to tell you about the evaluation process of the bid. And I'll start by reading what the contract document states, is that if the contract is to be awarded, it will be awarded to the lowest responsive bidder whose evaluation by owner indicates to owner that the award will be in the best interest of the project. So there's 3 key words: are lowest, responsible, and responsive. So I'm going to address each one of those and in regards to this bid. The first word being lowest. Again, 2 bids were received. Thale Construction Company's bid was $6,769,180. King Construction Services Incorporated submitted a bid of $680,525.67. That's a difference of about $88,654. King's bid had 1 unit price error in it, and the way the bid works is you have a quantity, they handwrite in a unit price, and by multiplying the quantity times their unit price, you get an extended total. There was a math error. It was clarified at the interview that we had on the 17th to my satisfaction that the error did not change the written amount of the bid. And so it is my conclusion that King Construction Services submitted the lowest bid. I will also add as a footnote, they had a value engineering proposal for your consideration. It was for deduct in their bid amount of about $336,160. It is something just for your consideration, and you have the option to negotiate it and accept it or not. But it was for them to be allowed to stockpile materials associated with the project in an area that they've identified where you currently have your concrete pile and your shingle pile. It's just something for your consideration. But obviously, if that was to be accepted, it would be a greater difference between the two bids. The next item we need to determine is responsive. Responsive is, did they submit all the information that was required for their bid? Were they responsive in their submittal to us? And both bids were considered to be responsive. They submitted all the required forms and bonds and so forth. The next item is responsible. It's probably the one we need to spend the most time on. And I thought I should read what the contract says with regard to this. It says the owner may conduct such investigations as owner deems necessary to assist in the evaluation of any bid and to establish the responsibility, qualifications, and financial ability of bidders, proposed subcontractors, suppliers, and other persons and organizations to perform and furnish the work in accordance with the contract documents to owners' satisfaction within a prescribed time. Now, to that end, we did an investigation with the interviews that we did on the 17th. And one of the specific items we asked each of the contractors to submit as part of their bid was what we call a work plan, which identified items that we consider to be critical components for successful completion of the project. And they included things such as staging of the project, scheduling of the project, protection of the cap system that has already been installed, so you do not affect the integrity of the old cap system while installing the new cap system. It was the protection of the synthetic liner system that will be part of this system, how their techniques, their deployment of protective cover, and how they're going to verify grade and thicknesses of their protective cover. These are items that are all critical for this type of a project. So we conducted this interview. Both contractors had an opportunity to submit their answers to these questions. I thought that both parties provided adequate information. However, it is my opinion that the King interview provided me more detailed and understanding of the project from the standpoint of their proposal was more tailored towards this project, in my opinion, and I thought that Thales was a bit of a generic, we've done this type of project. You may be aware that Thales was the contractor who built the previous closure project at your site. But there was not a lot of unique thoughts about how this project may be different than the other one and so forth. But that was my take on the presentations. And with that, that is the process that we've gone through. And I think that we need to ask if you have any questions of our process.
Board members, floor is open for your questions.
You have been working with them through the project they're doing now.
Yes, ma'am.
Is everything all right on that project, and is it on time?
Yes, ma'am. I think we may be a technical. If you look at what has been approved to this date, I think that, and I may be off a day or two. Friday may have been the last day of the schedule, or Monday, but I think it was Friday by what has been observed for weather conditions. But there are weather days that have not been submitted for to date that would give them an extension. And They have finished today. All activities requiring inspection are done as of today. I think that it's a formality as to whether or not they finished on time. I think that when all the dust settles and we have all the information, you'll see that they completed the project within the contract time with no extension or no overrun of the contract time.
What do they have left to do?
As of today, I believe that there is some protective cover on the saddle area, which is it's the area where you used to drive through between the two hills. They had to do a cap system, a clay cap system with protective cover on top of it. And I believe all the material is there. It's not graded properly, and there will be some seeding, but that's what I'd call punch work type. All the surveys demonstrating that their clay liners and the thicknesses have been satisfactorily provided to us to this point.
But due to the weather, there's been a delay, and all you're looking at as soon as it dries up is spreading the topsoil and seeding to finish the project out, correct?
That is correct.
Right.
And we have progress meetings every month in which we discuss over the previous period, have you had weather impacts that have kept you from working? What we haven't done is, the last one, we were so close, we have not had a progress meeting. It's like, let's go to work instead of sit around and talk about doing work. But if we were to have a progress meeting, they would submit to us a request for an extension due to adverse weather. And I know from what has occurred here, they are due days due to adverse weather over this last period.
And they would be granted excess days?
Yes, sir. And that would mean that it's just a formality, but they would be within the contract time.
Yes.
What circumstances would arise that would cause the price of the work, the project, to exceed the bid price, but not necessarily exceed the budgeted price? What would cause that to change? I understand what would cause it to change down if there were liquidated damages, and we talked about that already, but what would be an unforeseen situation that would cause that price to go up?
Well, the way these work is that there are many line items in the bid, which we, as the engineer, have provided a quantity for. And for instance, there may be, on this one, there's 36 line items. And we have identified the square yards of the liner and the cubic yards of the protective cover and so forth and so on. And I think that we have tried to be diligent in coming up with those quantities. But there may be an instance where the value that we placed on the contract is actually smaller than what they install in the field. And so when I go through this process, I try to make folks understand the unit price is what's key. The unit price is what you're accepting as part of the contract, and you'll pay them their unit price for the quantity that they actually install. Some may be higher, some may be lower, but what would cause this price to go higher is if all my items were correct except one that had underrun and they had additional materials, and due to nothing that the contractor did, it would overrun the bid price. That's one example.
But you're confident that the budgeted amount is pretty safe, that the difference between the bid amount and the budgeted amount, that we wouldn't go over budget, is that?
I am confident of that. I mean, I can never guarantee that by any stretch, but I believe that the budget that was established, it was a good budget. I believe the bid came in close to what was anticipated. Obviously, if I was the low bidder when I set the budget, we'd be in trouble. So we had a little break, a little cushion there, but it's not what you, in my opinion, it's not what you bid it for, it's what you bring it home for.
Right.
That's where it counts. And I think right now we have a bid price. I have every intention of bringing it in at that bid price or better, but I would say that it would not be totally unheard of that it could be higher than this bid price, and there was no ill will to cause that. It's just the way these projects, they're not, as much as we try to make it, they're not always as easy to identify these as one would think, the quantities and such, and the conditions you may anticipate. I'll give you one example. We have a item in here that's called excavate and landfill waste material, and we put 1,000 cubic yards in there. And that item is for, we have as part of the contract, they have to proof roll. They have to put a piece of equipment that has a weight on it, and then roll it over the surface. And if it doesn't hold it up and it leaves tracks, it says that the surface that is there needs to be repaired before they start doing their work to build the liner. $1,000 cubic yards is really, we don't have no idea what to anticipate, how many yards are going to be there. That could easily overrun the quantity. But what we're looking at there is, do you have a good unit price for that? Anything that is not as well defined, do we have a good unit price there? And you pay the unit price for whatever quantity is required to do the job. That's a perfect example. There's no way anybody could say, what's that number going to really be? I wanted to put a big enough value there that they couldn't put an inflated unit price on there and have a minimum effect on the bid, and hope that there's a huge overrun. So there's a little bit of art in putting up these bid in these quantities as it is science, and that's one example of that.
Thank you.
You mentioned that if we accept this bid, then King can store some of their materials on site where the concrete is now.
Yes, sir.
We save it excess $300,000.
Yes, sir.
What, between you and Bill, what's the reality of being able to store those materials in that location?
And if I may add, maybe beyond my scope, but I'll add that it adds more value than the number. In my opinion, is very insightful on how to keep construction traffic as isolated from your customer traffic as possible. I thought it was very insightful from that perspective, beyond the money. And safety is a key in this project, in my opinion.
Would you repeat the actual bid price again?
Yeah, sir, the bid price from King Construction Services Incorporated was a total of $6,680,525.67. It has a value engineering proposal, and again, this is not a bid, it's a proposal of $336,160 deduct to that amount should we be able to negotiate their placement of their stockpile material within the area they requested.
We had 7 million allowed for this, correct?
Yes, sir. I think that was the budget for the construction.
Right.
Yes,
And your engineering fees were on top of that.
Yes, sir.
So I know we're only dealing with paper money or a phantom numbers, but just based on that, we pick up $300,000 on the allowed amount and another $300,000 in the value engineering proposal for a total of $600,000.
Below the
That
budget.
money could be, all other things equal and constant, that money could be applied in other ways for future contingencies. Or it
Speak
could-
in the mic.
it could be a-
Speak in the mic, please. Speak in the mic.
If I understood you correctly, the question was, there was a budget amount for the construction. There was a lower bid amount that leaves a building contingency in itself, and then if you, in addition, accept the alternative, the value engineering proposal, there'll be an even greater contingency. So in the just easy math, we're talking about there's a potential of $700,000 difference between the construction bid and the budget, I think is what you were alluding to. And I understand that math, but I would encourage you to say, the bid is a good idea of where we're going, and that's our objective, but we need to move along and make sure that we're going to actually achieve this number as we think we are before, it's kind of like don't count your chickens before they hatch. I don't want to say, count on this is going to be the number. I have every intention of bringing it in for this number, but I would not want you to not have a contingency should unforeseen conditions occur.
I'm certainly not suggesting spending that money, or I'm just saying, it's very good news that, just based on the bid, we're $300,000 ahead.
Yes, sir.
And, with the, Value Engineering Partners, another $300,000. Sometimes bids go the other way, and you sit there and you scramble and you wonder how in the heck you're gonna cover it. But, this time it's not that way.
It's remarkably consistent, this bid that was put in. I think you got a very, and the bids were, it's not my job, as I said, again, to be the low bidder when I give you budgets, but they were not much different than the numbers that I had provided. I mean, I know I said 700,000, but I think that you have good bids here. I think they're good numbers.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, sir.
With that, just to give you staff's recommendation, our recommendation is the Board of Directors accepts staff's recommendation and authorizes the Executive Director to negotiate the award of the contract to King Construction Services to complete the 30-acre East Hill Field closure project. The total cost of the closure project will not exceed the FY 2014 approved capital budget of $7,750,000 for construction and engineering.
Move we accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Been properly moved in second that we accept staff recommendation. Comes to a question. Prepared to vote, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Ayes have it, so ordered.
Thank you.
Any items for roundtable discussion? Chair recognizes none. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Make a motion. Second.
Properly moved in second that we adjourn. All in favor, make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, man, I got it.
You gonna do it first?